identification purposes, if you could tell me your name and company or organization.
I'm Kerry Doherty. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Administration, the Executive Office of Health and Human Services here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the Medicaid Director.
Oh, great. Okay. First off, any reactions to the conference so far?
Yeah, this is an absolutely, I think, both an exciting time and a pivotal time for not just Massachusetts, but the entire healthcare system. As we try to break away from the mold of paper and the entire paper system to using what we know are proven technologies and making a system more perfect, if you will, by leveraging the electronics and electronic data gathering and sharing that's available.
Great. I'm just going to check something on the camera on. Anything that, any points or anything specifically, any of the presenters or speakers or presentations, any ideas?
I think it's, from a Massachusetts perspective, it's very interesting to talk to folks from other parts of the country who believe that we are miles ahead, if not leaps and bounds ahead of them, and yet we realize that we have miles to go ourselves, that we have some very technologically advanced providers, yet it's in their own silos. So now we've got to figure out how to go. In Massachusetts, one of our sayings is from Williamstown to Provincetown, the entire state, versus what happens in the city of Boston or the city of Worcester.
And could you maybe just give me a thumbnail sketch about what all this is about, what this health information technology?
Absolutely. It is basically taking the, in Massachusetts, the 6.5 million people who live here and receive health care from 63 hospitals and 20,000 physicians, taking all that information and making it available so that if a patient has an episode in Boston but lives in Western Mass, that information that would be necessary for clinicians to use in Boston would be available at the touch of a computer, versus get on the phone, try to find records, and literally share information that will make a difference in how people get taken care of.
And in addition to the benefits that the patients will get, what are some of the other benefits?
Well, certainly from a Medicaid perspective, where we spend so much of our money in trying to take care of some very sick and comorbid conditions, the care coordination between a host of clinicians is necessary to get them everything that they need. So hopefully we're going to get to a position where these things will become electronic and we'll get rid of duplicative testing, duplicative exams, and get to the real nexus of what someone's individual problem is. So we may actually see some savings on the cost side, which would be obviously very beneficial to not just us as the state, but to the entire system.
And is there, you talk about job creation?
In order to get this done, we are talking about using a priority with the Mass Health Tech Collaborative and the eHealth Institute, targeting 2,000 Medicaid physicians to get them into the electronic records. That's going to take a fair amount of folks on the ground working with physicians in their practices to get them to transform from mounds of paper into electronics.
That's great. Could you talk about how you, your organization, or how you interact with the Mass?
Absolutely. From a Medicaid perspective, we are required to develop a statewide plan. We estimate close to over $500 million worth of Medicaid incentives that are going to come through our agency. So we are working hand in glove with the Mass eHealth Institute to not duplicate services that they're doing, but also to leverage their ability to work with practices and prioritize practices so we can actually get the incentive money, if you will, into those practices so that they can procure the technologies they need, get the software they need to transform themselves.
Okay, and it seems that there's a real commitment in Massachusetts.
There's absolute commitment. To some extent, this is one of the job ones we have beyond keeping everybody we have covered and insured. It is now trying to move the system further along. I mean, you can't really address the cost curves in healthcare until you get to see the whole picture, and certainly electronics will help us do that.
And do you see challenges ahead?
I think the challenges are every day from both at the practice level, physicians who are aging and don't want to go to a new platform, to there's a variety of software that's available. As the federal government produces the requirements for interconnectivity and exchange, so all of this is happening at the same time. We had recommended actually 6 months ago, we kind of recommended everybody to stop and pause and don't go jumping into something right away. It was probably a very good recommendation because as we are looking and receiving guidance from the federal government, to get a certified system and to move for meaningful use requires a lot of deliberate plan. So I think we're there. I think we're going to get there. This is not something that's a flash in the pan. This is the entire schedule is a 5 to 8 year timetable.
And so speaking of the timetable, what do you see for the future?
I think the issue obviously is right now under the stimulus package. There's a lot of money put in this into incentives. Folks have to really start to now look at, once we get the systems up and operating, how do you sustain it? How do you keep this system tuned in place? And then who owns it? Who's going to be responsible for maintaining it? Something that has to be doesn't have to be first and foremost right now, but people can't think that we'll address that later. We've got to think and work that idea of sustainability into the plan.
And from the patient's perspective, do you see any issues?
I hope, I really do hope that patients themselves don't see this as any type of barrier or real change. Physicians practice medicine great, not just in Massachusetts but across the country. I hope the patient experience actually gets better as physicians realize that it's okay to take an electronic note from a patient. You get an email and send an email back. That it doesn't mean you have to come into the office type of thing. But in terms of physician-patient interaction, I really do hope that things don't change and that the electronics don't put another barrier between good and open communications.
Great. You know the subject far better than I do. Is there something I haven't asked you, any areas we haven't touched on?
No, I don't think so.
Terrific. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you very much. Microphone? Would you have a business card?
I think I do.
That would be great.